Free will. Yes, you heard me right. God hangs back so that you can decide for yourself if you wish to follow him in what he desires to see you do or whatever it is that you want to do on the earth. That is not to say he is truly absent, as he interferes with a great many events through miracles and outright alterations of chance. But at the same time, he created the world in such a way that we have yet to find irrefutable proof beyond the words of those that came before us that he exists. This is intentional due to what I noted in the video Grace versus Holy Law for two primary reasons. One, if proof of that sort is found beyond the visual evidence of great complexity in all things, that there is a creator and it is God, holy law comes down in full force as there is no longer any reason for it to hold back. Two, he wants to bless you for doing what is right, not what you are told to do. It's that simple. When holy law is not enforced and is still followed, God has reason to call you righteous because he created the law to be righteous. But this video is about why God is supposedly absent. If you don't see the work of God and his enemies at work in the world, you are not looking hard enough. You might say, surely if God exists and does miracles, then the news will cover it. This will not happen. Why? The answer is simple: lawsuits. Suppose for 1 second that the news covered a story of some crippled guy claiming that Jesus had healed them through the Holy Spirit. First will come the disbelieving doctors, and the first words out of their mouths will be a placebo effect. Now, there is a chance of that being the case, which to them proves them right, and suddenly the news station is in trouble for false news coverage and saying something was from God without proof. Second, if that fails, will come the lawyers and investigators. It's reasonable that the scientific community have proof that this guy wasn't healthy all along, right? All this takes is one unbeliever coming along and claiming that the guy's crippling injury was simply of the mind, if no physical proof of damage exists. That is closely followed by lawyers who don't want their worldview cracked or to consider that what they are doing might be wrong. Let's put this on pause for a moment to think about just how hard they'd work at this. Seriously, how many of you have done something that God would call wicked in your lives? I have, and it happened when I was about 9. Knowing this thing that you've done, just how hard would you work to find a legal loophole to not be forced to think about it or even justify how you've acted? So, supposing these lawyers and investigators are successful, not only is the news station now in trouble for failing to investigate news properly, now it's proof to them that the event wasn't from God. But what if the person's leg had been amputated with documented proof? Well, the news stations, having already suffered from the above situations, will wait for the scientific community to make a verdict, whom will do so at their leisure as they figure out everything the person has ingested or consumed since the amputation, in order to see if there is some substance or process that they can recreate for the sudden regeneration of limbs. Do you see where I'm going with this? The excuses to not acknowledge God for what he has done will always pile up, for two general reasons. One, human nature and basic psychology. We want when we want what we want when we want it, and we do not like admitting fault where it exists as a whole. Two, the enemies of God, despite being aware that he is very real, will refuse to acknowledge him and come up with every reason or excuse they can to prevent others from realizing that whatever they are doing might be wrong as well. I know this feels high-handed. Moreover, free will means you do not have to acknowledge a word I have said, just want you to think about them and consider them before acknowledging Friedrich Nietzsche and those like him as great philosophers. Now, I will admit there's also a potential esoteric answer to this question as well, that being he doesn't want you to die from being unable to perceive his visage. I say this because there are 4 sources I am aware of that mention seeing these beings of power in their might and splendor, only for those involved to die. Not drive them insane like the Cthulhu mythos, but straight up die. So, usually in a manner similar to spontaneous combustion. First, it is a nephew of Abraham, Lot, who escaped Sodom and Gomorrah with instructions to not look back. His wife did, likely seeing an angel in his full might as he destroyed the city, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Next is Moses, and how it was written that God passed before him, but God covered Moses' face with his hand that he might not die upon seeing him. Third are the children of Aaron, Moses' brother, and how they disarmed the Lord in their duties in the tent where his presence dwelt, showing more that his presence doesn't allow for that kind of behavior than that he intentionally slew them with restrictions that would prevent them from death if followed. Fourth is a story from Greek mythology. One of the women Zeus had claimed, Semele, was convinced to beg him to show her all his glory, when he finally gave in, it killed her just to see it. Have a good day, everyone. Running out of time.